We have our expert panel, the State of AI Overviews in 2024, Research Insights and Future Forecasts. And if I could, I would like to have everybody introduce themselves, leading with Anastasia. Give us a little bit of history of who you are and where you've come from in SEO.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Anastasia, and I'm leading the SEO organic direction here at SEO Ranking. Having around 8 years of experience with SEO. Right now, I feel that it's really important for us as an SEO company and for me as an SEO specialist to really keep an eye on the AI, on AI overviews. And that's why I really want to talk about this particular subject today. And I'm really excited for this.
Fantastic. Itamar, how are you doing, sir?
Hello. All good, thank you. All good. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Itamar Bauer, Senior SEO Director at Studio Hawk, which is an SEO agency based out of Australia and the UK. And in terms of how long I've been doing stuff, well, digital marketing I've pretty much done since I was 9 years old. So it's been quite a long time. And then sort of moving specifically into the SEO industry for a while, but I've not been an SEO nowhere near as long as Barry, our next guest as well. So I'll let him talk a bit about.
And this guy right here, Barry Schwartz, we all know this guy, right? 41,000 articles, 21 years of SC Roundtable. I'm just going to run ahead because I just wanted to congratulate you, Barry, on that. But what don't we know about you, sir?
Oh, good question. I'm the one that talks the talk. I don't walk the walk, as Dixon was saying. So, I write a lot. I don't call myself an SEO, but I guess by definition, anybody who writes anything on the internet is a SEO. And I love talking about search. So I know you got some really good, interesting AI data on Google AI overviews and other things. So looking forward to this chat.
That's a great segue. Thank you so much, Barry. Anastasia, I wanted to actually tee that up to you because SE Ranking has been doing a number of research and analyses on AA overviews since the display of that in April of 2024. So give us a picture of what you guys have been studying over there.
Yeah, actually, we started our research process back in January. We started doing this seriously after the official SG AI overviews rollout. Yeah, and right now we have data for the summer period and versus this autumn November period. And as for now, as of November 2024, we see that around 20% of keywords that we track, and we track a lot, it's about around 100K of keywords, that these keywords, 20% of these keywords trigger AI overviews. And this data is almost the same in the US and in the UK. I can say it's a huge increase compared to the August data when we saw around 12% of AI overviews in SERPs. And this can show us these dynamics, and this can also help us to make some conclusions and make some predictions based on this data.
Excellent. Well, that's a huge jump from 12% to 20% in the order of three months there. So you had a lot of predictions. You also had a lot of industry-specific subpoints in there. Can I ask one question? You've observed a strong correlation between longer, more detailed search queries and the likelihood of triggering AI overviews. They sometimes resemble prompts rather than those traditional search phrases, right? So how should SEOs approach keyword research and optimization for these new prompt environments that we're finding ourselves in? Itamar, I'll toss it to you real quick.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting when you think about how people have changed in terms of their behaviors. So search behaviors, we've sort of seen a shift ever since OpenAI I think initiated this shift in search behavior of people utilizing prompts as opposed to more traditional search queries that we've seen. So I think even looking into the data of what we found and in this research as well, I think it was quite interesting also to mention the methodology here, because it's you took 20 different types of industries, took about 5,000 keywords in each. So you've got a nice sort of sample there, hence the 100,000 keywords in total. And what it seems to me from just anecdotally looking at the study here is we sort of saw in the beginning the sort of Google's hand being forced into trying to at least provide some kind of experience that almost not exactly matched, but also gave a similar sort of vibe to what OpenAI and ChatGPT was providing. And then we saw Perplexity, Claude, all these other types of LLMs, and some of them evolved further into using RAGs and just how they actually found this information. But it seems as if like what we're seeing to now nearing 20% usage, we're sort of seeing at the beginning, Google was like, okay, we've released this new feature, so let's roll it out as much as we can. And obviously this was primarily within the US before sort of it branched out a bit into the UK, for example, where I'm based. What we actually saw is in the early days, it was actually pretty terrible for a lot of types of searches or prompts that people were putting in. The information was either incorrect or the sources that it pulled the information from were incorrect. And then you sort of see within the data after a couple months, it's like, okay, rolled back quite significantly. And then what we're seeing now is actually there's higher instances of AI overviews than the initial sort of launch or within the search lab sort of earlier this year. So maybe confidence has gone up now from Google's perspective, and things are changing very, very quickly as well. So even for me trying to test stuff, I'm having a tough time trying to figure out, what's going on, what's improved, what hasn't, because I gave a few talks earlier this year and a lot of them were specifically with AI overviews and how terrible they were. But now I'm like, actually, you know what? They've kind of improved. So like fair play for Google being able to do that. But it just feels like it kind of feels like a bit of an arms race. But you'd expect, a behemoth like Google to be able to at least carry quite a decent amount of leverage or be able to at least improve things relatively quickly compared to its counterparts.
Yeah. And for somebody who's watching the SERPs literally daily, Barry's reporting on this on a regular basis. Barry, how should website owners interpret the fluctuations of AI overviews presence in search? Because you report on all sorts of SERP features on a regular basis. Do you believe that the higher number of AI overviews in SERPs maybe implies a longer term trend of declining organic traffic to websites? Double-edged question there. I'll take the first one.
No, you're wrong. I'm leaving. I'm insulted. No, everybody expected it to show up more and more often as Google became more confident. Initially, Google was super confident. They launched with, I thought when they initially launched, way too many times that AI overviews came up in the actual Google search results. Then they got called out for all sorts of fun examples. Drinking urine while swallowing stones or something. I don't know. Lots of different examples. And it was pretty embarrassing for Google. Google rolled it back a little bit, rethought things, and now slowly is pushing, like you said, according to the study, from like 10% to 20% or so, depending on what data you read. It's good to see Google start to have more confidence in this and in a slow, gradual way, as opposed to how they actually went ahead and initially rolled it out. And it keeps getting better. I think, I kind of like, people that SEO industry kind of like named it the Ray update with the latest Google AI overview stuff, because she was one of many who were calling out really bad examples, pushing Google to do better. But ultimately, I think this is like feature snippets roll out. I mean, I don't think you remember the back in the day when Google started to roll out these feature snippets, and there were so many embarrassing examples of how it was giving you wrong information, embarrassing information, dangerous information. It was literally like the same rollout, but obviously Google search wasn't as prominent as it was back then that it is now. And of course, they didn't have this level of competition with OpenAI and Bing doing their Copilot stuff. So there's a lot more eyeballs on what Google is doing, because there was no such thing as feature snippets anywhere else. There was tons of people doing AI chat and bots and so forth in a very, very visible way. So Google had a lot more views on that. And ultimately, I think when it came to like the feature snippets, we saw the same thing with Google, and you see them a lot, and they do a pretty good job now. I think Google's going to continue to roll them out and continue to get better, and we will be more confident in those results. And I think the results will get better and better. They're not going to be perfect. Even now, we can find examples of feature snippets that are wrong or make no sense. And I think even Google, when they wrote that blog post about it, they cited some examples of like that I covered of the feature snippets going wrong and getting better. That being said, I think ultimately SEOs are going to be like, and publishers and content creators and brands are going to want to be in those AI overviews if that's what's shown up first, even though they might send less traffic. I know we ended that conversation with Dixon about brands, and everybody's talking about brands these days. You want your brand to be mentioned in there. And that's the ultimate goal here is, I think Rand Fishkin just came out with SparkToro data around, it's the brands. All this stuff is about brand marketing. So I think ultimately you're going to want to go ahead and test these AI overviews to make sure that whatever comes up for related queries that you're searching for, that maybe you want your brand to show up there. And how could you get your brand to show up there? Even if it's not a link, which often they are now links, Google's pushing more and more links in there. I think brand mentions are going to be very, very important there. And I think ultimately SEOs who don't show up there are going to be wondering, how do I get my clients to show up in there?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And the fear that feature snippets actually engendered that we were going to be losing a heck of a lot of search traffic, that kind of blew by the wayside as well. And we're predicting that this is going to be the same type of scenario here, is that there is a zero-click concept here that has been discussed, but brand and authority that's happening inside AI overviews is certainly going to be affecting any of the organic visibility that a client has and trustworthiness of that website as well. I got a question for you, Anastasia. You actually did some research on the links, the sites that are actually coming up in AI overviews, and you have some data there. What's the percentage of the links in AI overviews that are matching the top 100 ranking sites?
We have a lot of data here, and I'll start with the fact that on average, an AI snippet has 6 to 7 links in it. So these are chances for websites to be visited, to be clicked at. And as for the sources, we see that around 90% of websites are listed both in the AI snippet and in the regular search. And it is at least one link. But I guess a more interesting fact is that around 60% of the websites that appear in the AI overviews snippet also rank in the top 10 results. I guess it's an interesting topic to cover, because knowing this, we can assume that websites that already have some traffic from the regular organic SERPs will probably continue to be getting this traffic. And at the same time, some websites that do not rank in the top 10 results right now can have more chances to be visible within these AI results.
Have we seen the loss of an actual organic position kind of consumed by AI overviews? That's a jump ball for anybody. Have you seen that behavior happening? Or is it established that there's some permanence now in the organic listings that wasn't before?
So I don't think a listing would be removed. I think there were some cases with feature snippets where Google would do deep duplication and change over the years where they don't want the same URL to show up multiple times in the search results. And that was on and off for feature snippets here and there. I think with AI overviews, we haven't seen deduplication of the same URL yet.
That's fantastic. And that's a confidence builder, because that was arguably some thoughts when we were looking at it in SGE and the lab test, that some things were actually disappearing as AI overviews were being tested. I do have a question about the shift of some of the intent of the AI overviews. Are you seeing AI overviews affecting the balance between informational and transactional queries? Are there any notable shifts in user behavior or conversion rates that businesses should be aware of? Or are we able to track conversion rates from AI overviews yet?
I'm not sure we can track this data because, as we all know, we won't have a direct data source for this kind of data, because Google Search Console won't show us data for these particular URLs, for these particular snippets. What we can do, we can track the keywords, and we can see what keywords are listed, what keywords trigger the AI overviews, and for what keywords we have our URLs, our website being present. And you can do this with SEO ranking as well. And then you can track these keywords, and you can match this data with your Google Search Console data, like matching the positions, your keywords, your URLs, and your actual traffic data from Google Search Console, and then somehow apply your conversion rate on this traffic to see if anything has changed or it remains the same. This is the way I see we can do this kind of analysis, but maybe Itamar have a different approach.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems very manual at this moment in time. And I'd imagine it will get easier further down the line in terms of, having the right sort of toolkit to know exactly how you're being impacted by these. I think the interesting shift that I've seen, and that sort of is mentioned in the study, is that we're seeing more and more longer tail types of queries trigger AI overviews. And it makes you think, it's like, well, okay, if we're taking queries that have, maybe 4 words or longer, they're more long tail, they're searched for less, sorry. So the search volume is going to be lower, which actually means there's probably less money that Google needs to spend in terms of actually, processing power and actually getting these results to show up. So maybe that's a reason why Google is more comfortable sort of showing AI overviews for queries that by nature may require more nuance, because the longer your search is, there's going to be more specific types of details, the more words you're including in there, which kind of tallies itself quite nicely to show that. I think that it's definitely more informational search focused in terms of the intent of the search query, as opposed to a more transactional or commercial or something where you're trying to purchase an item. I think we saw earlier on this year where there were some really just bad results when it came to specific like transactional types of searches. In terms of even the sources, we've seen a shift with that. It's like, it'll be really interesting to see the shift of, there were lots of sources that were shown several months back where it's like the actual domain or the actual page itself either was broken, it was a park domain. There were examples where the actual content wasn't anywhere on the page within the source. And you're thinking, well, how did that even happen? So, we are seeing just so many changes in such a short amount of time that I'm not confident we're going to be able to get any sort of automated levels of tracking this for at least the next 6 months based on just what we've seen, because there's just so much happening. But like Anastasia is saying, it's like, yeah, things are a lot more manual. There may be ways to sort of look for correlations and be able to do some guesswork and take multiple data sources and try and piece together the puzzle, but we're not going to have anything out of the box that would make our lives as SEOs easier to be able to report on this stuff for the time being.
That also brings up another factor of just the emergence of paid ads inside of AI overviews. That instability right now puts a number of advertisers at concern, because your ad could very well show up next to something that you did not want to actually be associated to. So we're not seeing that activation collectively yet. I think Barry reported on that as well recently. It's being tested out in a number of areas. The percentage of ads that we're seeing right now collectively in the AI studies with AI overviews right now? Any takes on that?
Well, I think in the study, they said, the SEO ranking study, the number of cases where ads appear alongside AI overview fluctuated throughout the year, with the latest study showing about 8.77%. Now, there's also something about the ads in the UK with 34%. Now, I don't know if that specifically looks at the ads on the page in total. I think it does, because a lot of people confuse ads with AI overviews, meaning ads above or below the AI overviews or on the side. Ads in the AI overviews are super rare to see. Google's been really, really cautious about testing it. So I doubt it's that 8.77%, probably under 1%, in my opinion. I don't have a study on that, but it's very rare to actually see ads directly in the AI overview snippet itself, enclosed in that box.
I think it was like a recent report within the last couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken, that's been seen in the wild.
I mean, the SE rankings is, I haven't seen the study, but I mean, it could be, but there are some people who are seeing it in the wild. And Ginny Marvin, the Google ad liaison, said, we're being very cautious about how basically you roll it out. Or did she say something specifically? I don't remember the actual quote. I remember hearing her on stage at Brightest SEO, where she said, you are going to see it. We are testing it and it is rolling out, but they're being very cautious about it. So I don't think you'll see it that often. And if you do, you're lucky. And then send me a screenshot so I can add it to fast.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to pivot here for a second and give a little bit of insight, or a question, I should say, towards some of the more sensitive topics that we're seeing AI overviews come up. We liken it to the YMYL stuff and being able to see AIO inside of medical advice as well as legal advice and financial advice. Should we, as consumers, really want to push back on that until maybe AI is ready for that? Because we've seen a lot of misfires in that space. Itamar, what are your thoughts about those more sensitive topics?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to get involved in terms of the number of sort of lawsuits and trouble that Google has been in recently. But I mean, if you're going to be using YML topics to show AI overviews, especially when the data is wrong, you're going to open yourself to all sorts of controversy where somebody might end up losing their house and basically say, well, I got this information from Google's AI overviews, which was meant to be a, credible source of information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it is very, very dangerous. I think it's something that unless you are confident, but then again, it's a question of like, who's going to be able to judge confidence? Is Google going to be able to take, objectivity in terms of what information on a page that it decides to pull out snippets from to display in AI overviews? How is it going to be able to even determine that? So I would be, pretty against.
Kind of like having like a very confident friend. I mean, I think people need to think about these AI answer machines as like friends. Like you ask your friend, I'm having heartburn. One person be like, yeah, you're fine. Just eat more, I don't know, hamburgers. The other person may say, you're having a heart attack. Go to the emergency room right now. And they're very confident in their answers. I think that's what AI overviews are kind of like. It's like, it's kind of like talking to somebody with a personality, oftentimes very opinionated about what their answer is going to be. And they don't give the disclaimer that, like the person, your friend's not going to give you a disclaimer that we're experimental and, we could be wrong, whereas the AI overviews do. So it's interesting from the study, like how often it shows up in these sensitive topics, like almost 30% for legal topics, 18% for healthcare topics. And we haven't seen Google pull back much in those areas, which is, I really thought they would pull back a lot on that. And they're not. They're being confident in their results and they're labeling them as, this is an AI overview and it might be wrong. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting to see that.
Yeah, they kind of leaned into it. And the study on those different topics showed growth from one study to another study in the business and legal and medical environments. Anastasia, we talked about that a while back.
Yeah, it's growing a lot, and it seems that Google will just continue to do so. I guess Google makes itself safe by just adding the disclaimer, like this is just for informational purpose, and like this, what like makes this safe. I don't know, for Google. Also, we see that Google still links to trustworthy sources, like medical websites, like some governmental websites. And I guess this is also a way for Google to make it safer while expanding the results, the AI results.
And by the way, as we're talking about it, I'll flash the QR code at the end of this as well, because there's a QR code to actually hit the entire study that we're talking about. I failed to mention that before we kicked into the stream. Final pivot here is really talking about how to optimize for AI overviews. Too early and very unstable waters right now, but how should SEO strategies evolve to remain effective in the context of AI overview? Because it's not going away. It's growing more and more. And we could probably predict that it's going to go to 30 or 40% of searches in the next couple of years. Don't quote me on that. But how do we stay in that space?
It's quite an interesting one. And just because things are changing so quickly, I think the best thing you can do is just try to use your brain and reverse engineer what is happening and looking into sources to establish, okay, what is it about this particular source that's showing prominently? What does it have? How is the content structured? You can look further. You can look into the backlink profiles of the domain. You can look into the backlink specifically to that particular page. And so there's a lot of manual things, I think, at this moment in time that we're going to need to do because there is no clear answer and things are changing. I definitely don't think that there's going to be something revolutionary in terms of how people should approach their content and their websites to optimize their sites, generally speaking, across the board. And I think that even applies to the LLMs as well. I don't think there's anything revolutionary that needs to be done. But I think if you really want to get a better understanding of figuring out why certain results are as they are with AI overviews, it's a case of looking in your niche and trying to determine, okay, here's the types of searches that this is showing in. And obviously this is where the SE ranking study and other studies on this will be really helpful for you to sort of know where to pinpoint your focus, but actually just trying to reverse engineer and the old classic, puzzle solving methods of trying to figure out why certain things are happening and then test it yourself and experiment and try to do A/B tests and track things over time. That would be my biggest advice for this.
And explore who is actually being listed in those AI overviews and seeing what other topics they're actually talking about. Going back to Dixon's presentation about entities and topic knowledge, semantic knowledge there, you may very well see that there's more trustworthiness in that microsite cluster of information on a site. Barry, I wanted to move into some predictions in 2025 because I know you're continually reporting and end of the year is always predictions. But when we come down to what skills may be important for SEOs in 2025, considering AI and other trends like this, what would you suggest to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Itamar already said use a brain. I was going to argue, don't use your brain. You don't need one. No, I'm just joking. I mean, there's AI that can replace it. So, I mean, we're all doomed, basically. I mean, we should just give up right now. And I don't know why we're even doing this webinar. I'm just joking.
All right, there we go.
No, I mean, I think it's the main thing everybody's been saying is brand. That's the really thing you have to work on. It's interesting because most publishers these days are switching models. Even The Verge just announced they're going to a subscription model. They wouldn't do that if they're getting crazy traffic from Google. If their traffic was increasing and they were getting a lot more traffic, they can monetize that based off of ads and impressions. Everybody's getting less traffic from Google. In fact, I reported that my own website got 15% less traffic from search overall in the past year over year. But overall traffic, even with the 15% drop in search traffic, which was most of my traffic, I had a 5% increase in traffic. Why? Because of brands. I'm doing this webinar. Millions of people are watching this right now and asking, who is that fool that says don't use their brain? And they're Googling me and trying to find out more about Barry Schwartz. And Barry Schwartz that comes up is this professor that's much better looking than me and wrote a book about choice. So they can't find me. But I mean, I got to work on that. That being said, it's all about the brand. And I think the more you have to think about the brand when it comes to any of this stuff. Search is dwindling. People are in other places, and AI overviews are everywhere. And also AI search is everywhere. People are using ChatGPT as friends and having conversations with them. And I think in Japan and in certain countries, they're coming out with AI-based robots for be boyfriends and girlfriends with. So the world's changing. And the beauty of our community in SEO, in the SEO world is we really absolutely love change. And we adapt to it really quickly. We embrace it. And we see that as an opportunity. So again, brand is important, but embrace the change. Don't be like one of those people that says, I'm not going to use AI. It's horrible. I mean, you hear a lot of people in my community talking about it. It's the end of the world. I'm like, you guys are going to be extinct in a few years if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Try it, use it, and have fun with it.
Use it as a tool and don't push back. Yeah, absolutely. We do, as SEOs, we do tend to complain about change, but we still do adapt, right? So there's that. All right. So with that, I do want to toss it over to Anastasia for her thoughts on how she sees, because she's been leading these studies over at SE Ranking. How do you see AI overviews evolving in the future based on the trends that you've been observing?
As I said, I do believe we will see more of AI overviews in search, and maybe we will see more of this trend of zero-click searches when people will find more information directly in the SERPs. But I guess this will lead to websites and content creators to create more bottom of the funnel content, like to cover more in-depth, more product or brand related topics that cannot be easily answered by the AI. And we'll probably need to create less like top of the funnel, really easy what is content. I guess the websites and the SEOs will adapt, and we will understand this technology and this new search more, and we will find like really effective solutions to get the traffic. I guess we will use more traffic channels in the future. Yeah, but still we will see more of AI in Google, and I guess we will see more traffic from other AI engines. For example, we see more traffic from ChatGPT and Perplexity this month and like this quarter in general. And I guess we will see more of like traffic from other sources, not only from Google, like it was before when you get like 95% of traffic from Google and that's all.
It'll be more diversified. We just saw our first lead come in for one of our clients from a ChatGPT referral, and I'm just itching to try to engineer back what was that citation? Where did it come from? And to Sahir's reference, just dig through, find the questions that are being answered on that page, and you can start trying to find how this actually is being created. But boy, there's a big black box inside of LLMs that we can't get into yet that will be a source of traffic growing. It already is a growing source of traffic right now. Itamar, final thoughts, a thought towards the prediction of SEO in the next year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that taking what I think is going to happen is we're going to see, especially from mid to late 2025, there will be sort of year-on-year declines in Google Search Console for a lot of websites. And I think what they need to do is be better in terms of how they're reporting on overall traffic to their website. So very recent, literally yesterday, I put a LinkedIn post up sharing a Looker Studio dashboard that pretty much takes your website, you put in your data through GA4, and it will show you the traffic evolution over time from the most popular types of AI platforms. So your Gemini's, ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc. That's the sort of stuff that needs to be taken into account next year in terms of how SEOs are reporting on data to websites to be able to more accurately show that actually, like Barry and like Dixon, and what we're talking about here is brand and showing actually people are seeing you, but it's not highly concentrated. And as Stasia said, it's not 95% from Google search directly. So I think that from the Google search type traffic sources, we're going to see less of that next year. But it does mean that SEOs will need to be on their A game in terms of how, I guess, as accurately as possible, report on a more holistic sort of traffic acquisition to your website.
Because they're answering questions and many more features and facets than Google search right now. And especially with the search GPT that's also being released. I mean, you're going to have a much more diversified portfolio of reference that users are actually experiencing. So thank you very much for your time today, folks. I really do appreciate the panel's contribution here. Hopefully we answered a lot of your questions, listeners and watchers, for AI overviews and the future of AI overviews in 2025. And hopefully we're giving some good SEO skills, guidance at least, to what you should be doing in 2025. Hey, we wish you all the best for a new year's, our panelists, and thank you so much for playing. Appreciate it.